Welcome to the Even Better podcast, where your host, Sinikka Waugh of Your Clear Next Step, brings you exciting content about making communities better by helping people get even better at work.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Even Better podcast. This is your host, Sinikka Waugh, and on behalf of all of us at Your Clear Next Step, we're just so excited to be here. This is part of our ongoing mission to help people have better workdays. And I am thrilled to have back in the recording with us, Terrie Kohl, Chef Terrie Kohl of Country Club Market. Chef Terrie and I go way back, and I don't think we're going to share the dates, how long ago it's been since we've been friends and colleagues, and it's just been such a joyful journey. And as we think about things, if you haven't had a chance to listen to Chef Terrie's previous podcast, be sure to jump on that. That was released on February 7th. So you'll be able to find that. Go back and listen to that. She just has some wonderful, wonderful insights for you. And today we're switching gears completely. And today we're talking about the idea behind purging and decluttering and getting rid of stuff. Now, Terrie, before we have a chance to sort of dive in deep, tell us a little bit about how on earth did that come to happen for you? How did you get into these wisdom and these insights, these things that you've learned from the opportunity to purge and to declutter?
It tickles me because it was so simplistic. It started with just, I think about 3 years ago, maybe a couple months from now, when I was transitioning my wardrobe. So I was weeding out the winter clothes for the spring, summer clothes. And I thought, wow, I know I'm not going to wear that. And I'm not going to wear that. And I'm not going to wear that. And so then I ended up with this pile of clothes. Okay. And which left me another dilemma over here that I don't have anything to wear. I think we all look at a closet that's full and think, I don't have anything to wear. But there's so many things. Once you start weeding through it, what you're not going to wear, or even, what you like, but somehow define. So I started with my clothes. Then I went to my shoes. Then I went to my coats. And one thing led to another. And as soon as, I had boxes at the door, then I would take them. I began giving to the Clive Community Closet. So then I went to my hall linen closet, right? And it can be overwhelming. So it's like maybe 2-hour segments. So who doesn't have unused towels and rugs and pillows and things taking up space? And so I pulled those out and set them by the door. When I had a big enough load, then I would take it. And I think that really helped move that mass out of sight.
Yeah.
And so then I started in the bathroom. Good opportunity to clean the bathroom. Take everything out of the bathroom. And then pick and choose what you want. What's left is either reusable by someone else or throw it away. So, it just spiraled. And it was so compelling and enabling. And I was just so proud of myself. I documented it on email, and hopefully, it inspired others. But it's that thing about what's not your treasure may be someone else's. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the thing. I had 2 options. I didn't have 3. Most people are like, what I want to keep, what I want to think about, what I don't want to keep. Mm-hmm. And with me, I had 2 options. I'm going to use or I'm not. And that was very freeing because I didn't have to look at it again.
Yep. Oh, I'm so excited. And I'm so delighted that you're willing to spend some time and talk about 4 things that you learned from this great adventure in purging. So as our listeners are tuning in and thinking about this, so we know you, Chef Terrie Kohl, as an amazing culinary artist who creates just beautiful, beautiful masterpieces for families around the table and for special events. And we've known and loved you for many, many years. And on our previous podcast, we talked about about how your faith shows up everywhere, every day at work in who you are. And so that makes sense. So, right, you have a career and you have a job. And so workplace and making better work days makes sense, right? We can absolutely tie that in. And so now we're talking about purging and adventures, the great adventure that you had in purging and 4 things you learned in that great adventure. And there's someone listening right now who is thinking, well, this is kind of interesting, Sinikka, but are you sure this ties to making the work days better? And I'm going to point out the reality of how many of us are working right now in our homes. How many of us right now find our workday, either part of it or part of the work week or the whole work week, takes place in also the place where we live, and we do laundry and we eat and we prepare food and we clean up and we sleep. It's all happening in the same, 4 walls, if you will. And I believe that whether we're working in the same place as we're living, or whether we come home after work to that place that we live, I believe if the place that we live is weighing heavily on us, that can distract us from having a successful workday. So, and certainly if while you're working, you're looking around and there's just too much crap around you and there's just too much stuff and you're overwhelmed by it, I think that can interfere with our work days. So I think it's a great topic, and maybe someone will find a tip out of this. We are here with Chef Terrie Kohl talking about 4 things she learned from her great adventure in purging. I love that. And I love that you documented along the way. So let's just dive right in. So the first thing is you learn to define treasures differently. And you started with that. Let's just build on that right now. What does that mean? How did you discover that treasures are defined differently?
So maybe it's my age. Formerly it was things, stuff that we collected and surrounded ourselves with. And as I mature, I find I don't need to be weighed down. And like you mentioned, I work from home. And so you see these projects and they sort of eat away at you. And so it's in that respect too, you're freeing your mind. You're giving your mind more space to be productive rather than, letting it go places that are negative, like, oh, I need to do that, or I should be doing that. You just do it, get rid of it. It's so mind freeing as well to let it go, free your mind. It's clarifying your mind and your thoughts of these things too. It just spiritually, it gives you space and freedom and clears the air, and you're not surrounded by these things. You have space to motivate you, and it's I don't know, I could go on and on. I hope you have the idea.
Well, for sure. I think you said 2 things that I want to go back to. One of them, your idea of the projects. And I know I can relate to that. When the kids were little, there was a project it was a painting project, a craft project that Sophie had started on, and we started on it on a weekend, and it just started to take longer than we thought. And with Anya, it was a science project, and we started it on a weekend thinking we had enough time, but we needed more time or more supplies or something. And so in both cases, these projects took up space on a counter or a table or a space somewhere in our house. They were 2 different spaces, but they took up space. And every time we walked by them, I would have this guilt that we hadn't gotten back to it. And it was, I mean, they didn't sit necessarily in that same space. Then eventually that got moved to the basement and relegated to a shelf somewhere in the basement. But still, every time I would walk by them, instead of the joy of, hey, we did this, or this was a fun experience, it was this weight of, we never finished that, the weight of the unfinished project. And that was not a treasure, right? That was weighing down. It was probably weighing down for them. For me, it was all kinds of mommy guilt, which was just ridiculous because they were having plenty of fun. We just didn't happen to finish those 2 projects. But you also said something. So I know that I can relate to that, and others can relate to that too. But you also said something about the treasures just before we went into the list, as you talked about treasures that may not be treasures for you anymore, maybe a treasure for someone else. Did you have any experiences with that? Did you get to see someone else light up or hear stories about any of that where it became someone else's treasure?
The one that speaks to me is when I began purging, I was giving to different organizations, and then I started to break it down. And so I would post, who would like this? Who could use this? Just for instance, I used to cross stitch. And so, I had all the colors and all of the pieces. And then so I posted it. Who would like this? Someone spoke up and they came and they got it. Yes. And I thought, oh, yay, and do a good home. And so I started sort of piecing things out. And years ago, I collected Tupperware. It was the thing to do, have Tupperware parties. And I had literally 6 of those bins full of Tupperware that I was not using. And, I thought to myself, I just don't want to give it away, so to speak. And I thought to myself, Ruth Harbor.
Mm.
I called Ruth Harbor. I said, I have massive amounts of Tupperware. And I thought, I know. This is how my mind works. And, you have 2 houses, maybe it can be broken up into houses, or as the moms and their babies leave, they could get little kits of bowls and glasses and pieces. And they talked to the house mothers and they said, yes, we would love to receive them. And so I think that's probably the height of one of my giving situations was taking and delivering those 6 bins of Tupperware that was going to be used by new moms and babies.
Yeah. And it really was a treasure for them.
Yeah, they need diapers and baby formula, but the list goes on when they leave and they start their new lives. And so my mind reaches out like that as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Well, and you alluded to your collection. So Tupperware was not the only thing you collected. I know you collected pineapples and other things. So let's talk about your second point. So first thing you learned to define treasures differently. And then we moved on to the second one, which is you are more than your collections. So how did that learning take place, Terrie?
Again, back to collections. As you see behind me, my cookbooks, that is like 1/4 of what I used to have. And it was packaged and donated to the Clive Library, where they sold them in their annual book sale.
Okay.
And so they used to be my heart and soul, my cookbooks. And I know it's hard for me to believe that I parted with them.
Because you had something like north of 4,000, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. And the thing about it is people, friends would give me cookbooks that they didn't want or their families had passed, and they said, well, Chef Terrie will give them a good home. So I was receiving these special treasures from other people, and it was just mounting. And God said, Terrie, it's not about the number or what it is. And so I took out what I wanted. And again, I didn't think twice. I just took what I wanted and I didn't look. I just boxed and boxed, and they left the house. And, now I'm left with this, that again, I'm not surrounded by things that I wasn't using. And I think that's the other thing. If you're not using it and you don't see it in the future, let it go. Yeah. I'm not done. I still have kitchen cupboards. I went through my drawers and okay, so who needs 5 whisks? I do, because especially spatulas. I have 10 rubber spatulas. They can all be dirty if I'm cooking.
At the same time, absolutely. Yeah. I could use 5, so you've got to be able to use 10.
So it just depends on where you are in life. And it's like I have empty drawers. It's like, why do I even need a dresser drawers, right? Just what you don't wear, you go through all of your drawers and box and and move. Like I said, I went to Clive Community Closet. I've been to St. Vincent de Paul. Many hands has backed up and taken a roll top desk, beautiful, that I had treasured, and it was a reward years ago for myself that I'd always wanted one. And, I hated giving it up, but it wasn't being used. And it, freed up space to reconfigure my house. And found out I had frames in 4 different places.
Oh, for goodness sakes. That's funny.
I'm a single girl. What?
That's funny. So, okay. So your collections, though, we're in this point about you're more than your collections. And I know that whenever I see a pineapple, I immediately think of you, because the pineapple and the hospitality and it's been part of your logo for many years at Country Club Market. And you had a pineapple collection, right?
I did.
But you are more than your pineapple collection. So talk us through how did that go? How were you able to part with all those pineapples?
They were me.
Mm-hmm.
I was so proud of when I chose the pineapple as my logo, as you say, the international symbol of hospitality, and anything you can imagine, I had a pineapple of, right? My ceiling fan pole was a pineapple, a doorstop pineapple. I was inundated with pineapples. And when I started getting duplicates, then I knew, okay, it's time to stop. Who gets duplicate pineapples? I mean, then you're overboard. Yeah. So I stopped collecting pineapples, and they were all in my hutch. And not that I'm a big drinker, but I didn't have anywhere to put my wine glasses and flutes, because it was all filled with platters and trays and pitchers and things that were pineapples that weren't getting used.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a few pineapples, but I know I let them go. It was time, and it was freeing. And many hands probably set up a complete display of pineapples. It's one of those things where you just decide. It doesn't define me, or it's not that it makes me unhappy, but it doesn't hold the meaning that it once did. And so there again, someone else should and will get to enjoy it.
Lovely. Lovely. So we're visiting with Chef Terrie Kohl, and we're talking about 4 lessons learned through her great adventure of purging, which she will tell you is still ongoing, but she takes it a little bit at a time. So the first one was defining treasures differently. The second one, which we just wrapped up, is the realization that she is more than her collections, right? As we're purging, we are more than our collections. And you've alluded to this third one, Terrie, but maybe we can just give some more examples. There are places, this was a third lessons that you had learned, is there are places who need our stuff. So you talked about Ruth Harbor, that was one of them, and you've alluded to a couple others. How did you come across it? Are there some, for those in the Des Moines market, let's list a couple that might need our stuff here in the Des Moines area, and those who are further afield, how would you counsel them to figure out who needs their stuff?
Oh boy, that is such a good question. I know there's a Dallas County closet in Waugh. Many churches have places that they collect for. There's such a need. I know Waugh has a Waugh free, where people, like I might post my keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to sell it. I don't want to put the effort into selling it. I can't throw it away. So I'll put it on Waugh free and say, it's a 100% usable keyboard. Somebody who is in need can take and pick up. I can put it on my porch, and they just come and they pick it up. I did that with my gardening tools. I did that with when I cleaned out my desk. I had umpteen tablets and pencils and pens and paper clips, and that, you think you need them but you don't remember you had them. So, it's like, so, and it was at the start of the year. So there were teachers that, and the 2-pocket folders and spiral notebooks, people came and got. I had a bag of batteries that someone came and got. So it's endless, that you don't have to have a garage sale. And like I say, for me, it is not about the money. It's spent, it's used, it's now time for someone else to enjoy. And that's just my heart. It's good. It's the way I serve.
Yep. And your heart is so beautiful, Terrie. It's so, so beautiful. So as we think about the places here in the Des Moines area, you talked about Ruth Harbor and your Tupperware going there. You've talked about Many Hands Thrift. You've talked about St. Vincent de Paul. You've talked about the Waugh Closet. Here in Indianola, we've got the Helping Hand, which is a place where people who need things can simply go and shop and take what they need. So you can make donations there. Most communities, to your point, many communities have churches and other things. You're right. The Facebook free posts, like come and get it. Those are useful. Any other places that you found that surprised you that needed your stuff?
Oh, now you're going to make me cry.
Oh.
There's so many people that are in need. And if any of your viewers want to contact me, I would love to walk them through this, give them direction, help them. But of course, we have the old school, Salvation Army, Goodwill. Just sort of check out their missions.
Mm-hmm.
Check out their mission is really important. With what they're doing, with the donations, with the money, how they're training their staff. I think that's important, as well as not just where it's going, but what they're doing and how they're treating it in the community.
Lovely. Lovely.
Yeah.
Well, as we're wrapping up here, so we got one more question or one more lesson learned. You had four lessons learned on the great adventure in purging. And the last one, which you've alluded to, you've talked about it along the way, but I know there's more on your heart because your heart is so beautiful. You've learned what a blessing it is to give. You've learned how much of a blessing it is to give. Terrie, tell us some of those stories. Tell us, when you give away, and many of us have more than we need, right? We just have too much stuff and we have more than we need. How does it make you feel? How do you, like, physically, how's your ability to face another day when something that was yours, it was part of, maybe even part of your identity, like a collection, it was yours and you had it, and now you've given it away. It's not part of you anymore. Does that feel like a loss, or is it something else?
I'll tell you, I can remember a particular time when this gentleman came to pick up a TV. So he came to get it, and we started talking, and I had, other things. And I said, hey, can you use this? I mean, I just started looking around, and he was like so touched that, I don't want to boast myself, but he was just so blessed that there was good giving people in the world, whether he had doubts or he had a bad day. And both being Christians, we made that connection. And I don't know, we ended up like an hour conversation, and made my day. I think it may have made his, but he went home feeling, wow, he's got a TV to watch. He's got these other things he didn't think he needed, but he's got them. And that happens when you give and you get to meet the people. I had lots of chef gear, and that all went to Central Campus Culinary Pro Start program. Coats and jazzy chef pants and notebooks, because you have to keep a notebook of all your recipes and things. So I've donated, and it's just endless. I'm sorry, I went way beyond your question, but people say, when's your next book coming out? I'm like, Well, this one took 18 years. Maybe my next one will be memoirs of all the ways that I've connected with people in celebrations and through catering or giving or blessing or making lives more precious is.
This was beautiful. Terrie, thank you so much for sharing your story.
You're welcome. You're so welcome. I know there's more I could say, but maybe another time.
Maybe another time. That's right. So, well, this is the Even Better podcast, and so I wouldn't be who I say I am if we didn't ask, that last question is, what's making you even better these days, Chef Terrie?
What is making? Oh goodness, the opportunities for new days to be a better me. Every day, my feet hit the ground, and I'm like, oh boy, what am I up to today? What can I, what recipe can I write? What menu can I write? I'm going to go donate plasma today. There are so many ways if we step outside ourselves, even with friends like you and I, how we complement one another in life and promote and support and love one another. It's kindness.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Well, for those who've just tuned in, this was just a delightful podcast with Chef Terrie Kohl. We've been talking about 4 lessons learned, or 4 things she learned from her great adventure in purging, and just some wonderful insights in there. If you are just now tuning in, you've missed most of it, so you got to rewind and go back to the beginning. Don't miss out. What a great opportunity to hear from someone who sort of accidentally, I think, started in a purging journey and has just, we're recording this on Zoom. And so I can see Chef Terrie's face right now, and I can see her just beaming. The joy that she has found in this purging adventure is absolutely contagious. And so listen in, and I invite you to find that same kind of joy. Maybe make your home workplace just a little bit better.
Yes.
So thanks. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sinikka Waugh. Your next clear step. You continue to amaze and inspire me.
Oh, well, thank you. And thanks for being part of the conversation. And for all of you who are listening, thanks for listening in. And on behalf of all of us here at Your Clear Next Step, we hope the rest of your day is even better.
Amen.
Thank you for tuning in today. The Even Better podcast will be back with more content soon. But in the meantime, subscribe to our podcast or check out our website at yourclearnextstep.com for more information. See you next episode.